16 years with Cascade Interiors. I used to believe I had seen every storm this industry could throw my way. At 49 years old, I had watched a modest commercial design studio in Portland's Pearl District evolve into an elite interior architectural firm, servicing luxury boutique hotels and four-star corporate properties nationwide. I was there from the foundational days when our entire office operated out of a renovated brick warehouse with 7 employees. Over 16 consecutive years, I painstakingly built our commercial division from zero into a multi-million-dollar business line. I knew every regional property developer's specific temperament, every general contractor's technical standards, and could instantly tell when a hospitality procurement director needed genuine problem-solving rather than another polished sales presentation. I had flown red-eye flights across 4 time zones to inspect custom millwork in person, spent weekends re-specifying acoustic wall paneling for tight deadlines, and forged relationships that withstood market crashes and economic downturns. I remembered every major milestone: our first boutique hotel launch in downtown Seattle, our first nationwide chain agreement in Chicago, and the endless late nights spent refining color swatches under natural sunlight with project architects. Beyond technical expertise, my team understood that commercial interior design was fundamental to human experience. A luxury hotel lobby is not merely an assembly of marble tiles, ambient lighting fixtures, and custom upholstery. It is an environment engineered to evoke comfort, elegance, and lingering warmth. Longtime hotel developers relied on my judgment because I personally verified every material sample before installation. When mahogany grain patterns varied slightly from approved architectural specs, I traveled directly to lumber suppliers to source matching cuts. That personal dedication established an unshakable reputation across the Pacific Northwest hospitality sector, establishing trust that extended far beyond standard vendor contracts. That rain-soaked Tuesday morning, I arrived at our Portland headquarters early as usual. A heavy, damp fog hung low over the Willamette River, each gray droplet tapping steadily against the high glass panels of our executive third-floor suite. I poured my morning dark roast coffee, opened my workstation inbox, and found an urgent mandatory invitation from executive leadership. The subject line was sparse and clinical: New Commercial Strategy Alignment Update. I assumed it was a standard operational meeting following our recent ownership change, until I stepped through the double oak doors into the main conference room. The atmosphere inside was noticeably cold and rigid. A row of unfamiliar corporate representatives in dark navy suits sat motionless along the long mahogany table, their expressions entirely unreadable. At the head of the table stood a young woman in her late 30s with sleek dark hair pinned tightly behind her ears. Her slate-gray tailored blazer matched the sharp tone of her voice. "My name is Victoria Sinclair," she said cleanly without greeting the room. "I am the newly appointed commercial director for Cascade Interiors, representing Summit Crest Group." Summit Crest Group was the massive national investment conglomerate that had acquired Cascade Interiors 3 months ago. Ever since the acquisition closed, subtle structural shifts had begun spreading through our hallways. Fewer open discussions about design quality, more mandatory electronic time-tracking dashboards, and endless spreadsheet reviews. Victoria spoke with sharp cadence, every word delivered like an attorney reading a courtroom indictment. "We need to modernize our operating structure immediately," she announced, clicking her remote to project the first slide of her digital deck. Operating overhead has expanded significantly over recent quarters, and legacy compensation structures across our commercial sales tier no longer align with group productivity matrices. Summit Crest has therefore decided to realign all base salaries, commission splits, and benefit structures under our unified corporate framework effective immediately. She paused, surveying the room with calm authority. No one dared to interrupt the quiet room. She signaled her associate, who handed out heavy blue folders to each senior director. When I opened mine, the financial adjustments were laid out with surgical precision. My base salary was slashed by 45%, my commercial commission share reduced by half, and my executive health care plan downgraded to a basic associate tier. Fewer rights, reduced compensation, total elimination of discretionary client entertaining allowances, and strict performance quotas. I looked up, keeping my posture straight and my voice entirely steady. Victoria, could you clarify the specific performance criteria used for this adjustment? I have led top commercial sales revenue for 8 consecutive years, and my division consistently exceeds target revenue projections by 20%. Her expression remained rigid, her smile barely forming at the edges of her lips. We are not here to evaluate past achievements, Julian, she replied smoothly. This restructuring focuses strictly on future operational efficiency. Your legacy compensation model no longer fits our modern data framework. Modern data framework. I recognized the corporate jargon instantly. It was a sterile corporate system designed to push out experienced professionals who operated on trust, long-term human relationships, and professional instinct, replacing them with automated behavioral analytics and low-cost recruits. I expect full compliance and unified support from senior leadership, Victoria continued smoothly. Everyone will need to adapt quickly to our new metrics. Is there a transitional grace period for existing client contracts currently underway? I asked. Effective immediately, she said. The finality of her response echoed sharply in the quiet room. 16 years of grueling travel schedules, midnight redesign emergencies, and weekends fixing engineering specifications were erased in a single declarative sentence. I closed the blue folder deliberately, stood up from my chair, and buttoned my suit jacket. Thank you for the clarity, Victoria, I said. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, perhaps expecting emotional pleading, loud protest, or aggressive negotiation. Instead, I offered her a firm handshake. I wish you luck with your new framework. Her handshake was brief and cold. As I stepped out into the corridor, I heard her whisper quietly to her assistant, some legacy managers simply cannot adapt to modern corporate realities. That afternoon, I sat by my office window, watching the Portland rain thicken against the glass. I recalled our early days 16 years ago. 7 dedicated designers, no corporate dashboards, just passionate builders who respected the craft. I remembered how the original founders believed that client trust was the single most valuable asset a firm could possess. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a silver Parker fountain pen, given to me by a hotel developer after our first major project launch, alongside a framed photograph from our 10th anniversary milestone. I packed both into a small cardboard box. When I walked down the main lobby, I caught Victoria's reflection through the glass mezzanine above. She was watching me leave, her arms crossed, convinced that another veteran manager was out of the way so her automated system could run smoothly. Before exiting, Eric Miller, our old chief financial officer and a trusted colleague, met me near the front desk. Eric shook his head sadly. Julian, I tried telling the board that your accounts generate nearly 42% of our total commercial revenue, but Summit Crest wants younger faces and lower base salaries. They think data algorithms can hold clients without human interaction. I appreciate your effort, Eric, I said warmly, but I refuse to stay just to become a monument to the past. As I stepped into the parking lot, my phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a text message from Harold Price, the chief procurement officer at Sovereign Hospitality, my most valued client for over a decade. Harold wrote, I heard rumors that Cascade is changing management. Are you still overseeing our account? I stared at the screen for a long moment, memories of midnight project reviews, emergency site visits, and custom material selections rushing back. I typed back slowly, not for much longer at Cascade, but I am still here if you ever need someone who knows your projects by heart. I set the phone down, placed my cardboard box on the passenger seat, and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, Cascade's glass building receded into the gray blur of the evening storm. I felt no anger, only a quiet resolve. The trust I had cultivated across the country could never be captured by a corporate spreadsheet, and I had no intention of letting 16 years of work end on their terms. I knew the road ahead would be challenging, but I was confident that genuine principles would always outlast temporary corporate greed. I spent the next 3 weeks at my home in Portland, clearing away the mental fatigue of 16 years of non-stop corporate pressure. I was not accustomed to empty mornings without client conference calls, project delivery schedules, or cross-country flight itineraries. I spent my days making coffee, reading industry journals, walking along the riverfront, and organizing my personal files. I reflected deeply on what truly matters in business. Titles fade. Corporate logos change ownership, but genuine human relationships endure. On the 21st day of my break, an unexpected email arrived from Oliver Grant, the chief executive officer of Beacon Design Studio in Seattle. I had met Oliver 2 years prior at an international hospitality design summit in San Francisco. At 39 years old, Oliver was sharp, forward-thinking, and deeply committed to authentic design craftsmanship. He remembered our previous conversations vividly and asked if I would drive north to discuss a major executive expansion opportunity. The following morning, I drove 180 miles north along Interstate 5 to Seattle. Beacon's office was situated in a beautifully restored brick building in the historic Belltown neighborhood, overlooking Elliott Bay. The studio environment was vibrant and inspiring, filled with physical wood samples, fabric swatches, custom lighting fixtures, and collaborative drafting tables, rather than sterile corporate cubicles. Oliver greeted me with a firm handshake and brought me into his office. "Julian, we are expanding our commercial hotel division rapidly, but we are losing human connection with our core clients," Oliver began frankly. "I need an executive who knows how to cultivate genuine, long-term partnerships, not just manage database entries. I am not interested in automated CRM portals taking over client communication," I told him directly. "I build business on trust, transparency, and personal accountability." "That is precisely why I reached out to you," Oliver responded with a broad smile. "I am offering you full authority as head of commercial sales to rebuild our commercial client division from the ground up with complete independence." I accepted his offer enthusiastically and officially launched my new chapter in Seattle. To build a resilient division, I hired 2 exceptional junior team members: Zachary Cole, a 27-year-old former interior designer with acute technical drafting skills, and Chloe Palmer, a bright recent graduate with sharp organizational discipline. Together, we established a streamlined workflow focused on personalized client consultation and rigorous design quality. We spent hours reviewing commercial client profiles, refining material procurement pipelines, and setting up an atmosphere where creativity and client trust took absolute priority. I hung a national map of hotel accounts on my office wall, alongside the old photograph of my original Portland team. Chloe asked why I kept a picture of my former company. "To remember that every genuine career is built on human relationships, not corporate titles or software dashboards," I replied. Meanwhile, down in Portland, Victoria Sinclair was aggressively executing her grand corporate restructuring at Cascade Interiors. Reports from former colleagues indicated that she had initiated sweeping layoffs across the commercial sales division, replacing experienced account managers with young analytics recruits from New York. Furthermore, Summit Crest Group committed severe compliance oversights under federal labor standards. Under the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, codified under Title 29 U.S.C. Section 2101, employers are legally required to provide a mandatory 60-day written notice prior to executing mass layoffs involving large commercial operations. Victoria ignored the Federal WARN Act notice window entirely, terminating veteran staff abruptly in order to artificially inflate short-term, quarterly profit metrics for Summit Crest's board. Over 60 dedicated employees were dismissed overnight without proper statutory notice, causing widespread outrage across local industry networks. Former colleagues described how security escorts marched senior designers out of the building without allowing them to clear their personal belongings, creating a toxic culture of fear. While Victoria celebrated her internal numbers, the human consequences of her decisions began to surface rapidly across the industry. Longtime commercial clients grew deeply frustrated with automated customer service portals, delayed project specifications, unreturned phone calls, and unyielding corporate policies. Within 4 weeks of my arrival at Beacon, phone calls began arriving at my new office in Seattle. The first call came from Harold Price at Sovereign Hospitality. "Julian," Harold said, his tone heavy with frustration, "Cascade just issued a revised contract proposal with a 15% price increase and zero flexibility on delivery schedules." Their new system requires us to submit change requests through an online ticketing portal. Who am I supposed to talk to down there? I am no longer with Cascade Herald, I explained calmly. But if you need an honest evaluation of your project specs, I am always available to help. I do not care about their corporate portal, Julian, Herald stated firmly. Sovereign Hospitality works with professionals we trust, not automated screens. Soon, similar inquiries arrived from a major hotel development group in Denver and a luxury resort developer in California. All expressed growing dissatisfaction with Cascade's rigid corporate bureaucracy, price hikes, and total lack of personal communication. I adhered strictly to professional ethics and legal boundaries. I did not actively solicit former clients or breach any non-compete agreements. However, federal commercial law clearly protects a client's right to choose their preferred service provider freely. When clients initiated contact independently, seeking reliable partnership and high-quality design work, Beacon Design Studio stepped forward to deliver superior service. In response to growing client flight, Victoria Sinclair panicked. Rather than reassessing her cold corporate strategy, she doubled down on aggressive intimidation tactics. One afternoon, Chloe handed me a desk phone, stating that Cascade's legal department was on the line. Lyle Bennett, Cascade's newly appointed legal director, delivered a cold warning. Mr. Vance, we have noticed several major hotel account inquiries, shifting toward Beacon Design. We are actively monitoring your activities for potential breaches of non-solicitation covenants. Mr. Bennett, I replied evenly, clients reach out to professionals who respect their business. If your new automated model cannot retain client trust, that is an operational failure, not a legal breach. I hung up the phone calmly, knowing that the corporate storm brewing in Portland was about to reach a dangerous climax. By the third month of my tenure at Beacon Design Studio, the commercial account migration had accelerated significantly. Sovereign Hospitality officially transferred 3 major hotel renovation contracts to Beacon, followed by resort developments in Colorado and California. In total, 42% of Cascade's primary commercial revenue had shifted to our firm within 90 days. Cascade's executive quarterly reports plummeted dramatically, threatening Victoria Sinclair's standing with Summit Crest Group's board of directors. Desperate to deflect personal responsibility for the financial collapse, Victoria and legal director Lyle Bennett engineered a malicious character assassination strategy designed to destroy my professional standing. On a cold Monday morning, a prominent national interior design journal published a shocking online article. The headline read, "Former senior executive accused of mass data exfiltration prior to departure." Beneath the headline was my professional photograph, accompanied by fabricated quotes from an anonymous internal corporate source at Cascade. The article alleged that before resigning, I had unauthorizedly downloaded a $12 million proprietary client database and trade secrets to undermine Cascade Interiors. The public allegations caused immediate shockwaves across the industry. My phone rang continuously with calls from journalists, industry peers, and concerned corporate advisors. Oliver Grant summoned me to his executive office later that morning. His demeanor was solemn as he sat behind his desk with our corporate legal advisor. "Julian, I personally trust your integrity completely," Oliver began carefully. "However, our investment board is deeply alarmed by the potential legal exposure. Until this matter is formally investigated, we must place you on temporary administrative leave." I understood his position, though the weight of the false accusation hit heavily. I packed my laptop, assured Zachary and Chloe that the truth would prevail, and returned to my Seattle residence. That evening, as rain poured over the city skyline, I received an encrypted anonymous email message. The text was brief. "They fabricated the electronic audit logs. The raw server records prove your innocence. Stay vigilant." The sender's identity was masked, but my instincts pointed towards someone inside Cascade who still possessed ethical integrity. At midnight, a quiet knock echoed at my front door. I opened it to find Nora Bell, Victoria Sinclair's personal executive assistant, standing in a dark raincoat, her expression anxious. "Julian, I am sorry to arrive unannounced," she whispered nervously, "but I cannot remain silent while they destroy your reputation." I invited her inside and poured her a warm beverage, Nora pulled a sealed external hard drive from her bag, her hands trembling slightly. Victoria and Lyle Bennett ordered the IT department to manually modify the electronic CRM audit trails, she revealed. They forged digital timestamps to make it appear that you performed a massive data download 48 hours before your resignation. They created a fake digital audit path to present to the press and the board. They even threatened the senior IT manager with immediate termination if he refused to execute the log alteration. Nora proceeded to show me detailed internal communication threads printed directly from executive accounts. The email logs captured Victoria explicitly stating that framing me with data theft was the only way to save her corporate position and justify the 42% revenue loss to Summit Crest's board. "Why are you risking your career to bring me this?" I asked her softly. "Because you always treated the administrative staff with dignity and respect, Julian," Nora replied quietly. "Victoria threatens everyone who disagrees with her. If I stay silent, she will continue framing innocent people." She handed me the hard drive, which contained pristine, unaltered server backup logs alongside internal email threads between Victoria and Lyle Bennett discussing the step-by-step plan to fabricate evidence against me. The raw electronic evidence was indisputable. Under federal law, altering electronic records to frame an individual and mislead corporate auditors constitutes severe criminal forgery, intentional spoliation of evidence, and a direct breach of fiduciary duty under state corporate codes. Furthermore, under federal copyright law, specifically Title 17 U.S.C., Section 106, personal proprietary architectural frameworks created independently outside corporate scope remain protected intellectual property. Victoria had committed egregious legal violations in her desperate attempt to protect her corporate standing. I immediately contacted my senior legal counsel, Martin Ross, presenting the uncorrupted server files and email chains. Martin reviewed the documents thoroughly and confirmed their legal weight. "Julian, this is a textbook case of corporate frame-up and malicious prosecution," Martin stated. "They didn't just break company policy. They committed civil fraud and criminal evidence tampering. We will not engage in a public media war. We will submit this documentation directly to Summit Crest Group's independent audit committee and federal compliance officers." The legal trap was set, built entirely on undeniable facts and pristine electronic proof. The following morning, attorney Martin Ross formally transmitted the comprehensive evidence package to Summit Crest Group's board of directors, their external audit team, and federal regulatory authorities. The legal filing detailed Victoria Sinclair's Systemic Warrant Act violations, the intentional falsification of electronic CRM audit logs, and the civil defamation scheme launched against me. The impact within Summit Crest Group's corporate headquarters was immediate and devastating. An emergency independent audit committee was dispatched to Portland to seize Cascade's IT servers and interview all executive personnel. Within 48 hours, forensic digital investigators confirmed that the raw logs provided by Nora Bell matched the master server backups, proving conclusively that the press allegations against me were completely fabricated by corporate management. Forensic analysts uncovered step-by-step electronic audit logs showing exact user credentials utilized by Lyle Bennett and IT staff to manually overwrite timestamp metadata. Federal regulatory monitors and compliance officers arrived unannounced at Cascade's headquarters, freezing executive server accounts and reviewing all personnel termination files. The audit exposed not only the evidence tampering against me, but also systematic labor law non-compliance regarding the 60-day notice mandatory under the Warren Act. As news of the internal investigation leaked to financial markets, Summit Crest Group's public stock valuation dropped by 3% in a single trading session. Major shareholders expressed deep concern over management ethics and corporate governance failures, demanding an immediate cleanup of executive leadership. Commercial partners demanded immediate clarification regarding Cascade's ethical conduct. That afternoon, my phone rang. The caller display indicated Cascade's executive line. When I answered, Victoria Sinclair's voice came through, devoid of its former polished composure. "Julian, what have you done?" she demanded, her tone laced with panic. "You are destroying the reputation of a major commercial enterprise." I did not destroy anything, Victoria, I responded calmly. You chose to falsify electronic records, violate labor laws, and slander an innocent professional to cover your operational failures. Data dashboards cannot fake integrity, and legal forgery carries severe consequences. You think you have won, she snapped bitterly. In this corporate world, ethics mean nothing without power. No, Victoria, I replied quietly. Ethics and trust are the foundation of every enduring enterprise. You lost your way the moment you believed people could be manipulated like numbers. The line went silent and she abruptly ended the call. 24 hours later, Summit Crest Group's board of directors issued a decisive public statement. Victoria Sinclair and legal director Lyle Bennett were summarily terminated for cause, stripped of all executive severance packages, and referred to regulatory authorities for potential criminal evidence tampering charges. Furthermore, Summit Crest Group announced its intention to fully divest Cascade Interiors, selling the firm to a syndicate of local Portland investors dedicated to restoring original craftsmanship and client-centered operations. Following the public retraction of all false allegations, Oliver Grant called me back to Beacon Design Studio. The entire team gathered in the main lobby, erupting into applause as I walked through the doors. Oliver formally reinstated me as head of commercial sales and announced my nomination to Beacon's corporate board of directors. With the legal storm resolved, client confidence surged. Sovereign Hospitality signed a multi-year exclusive design partnership with Beacon Design Studio, followed by major hotel contract renewals across the Pacific Northwest. Within 6 months, Beacon's annual commercial sales revenue doubled, solidifying our reputation as the premier hospitality design firm in the region. Zachary Cole and Chloe Palmer were promoted to senior associate roles, managing key accounts with the same dedication to personal trust and human connection that had guided my career for 16 years. The corporate empire built on intimidation and fabricated metrics had collapsed, while our human-centered firm thrived beyond expectation. 1 year after the corporate crisis, I stood backstage at the National Design and Hospitality Conference in Seattle. Below the main stage, over 1,000 industry leaders, corporate executives, hotel developers, and journalists had gathered for the annual summit. Oliver Grant had invited me to deliver the keynote address on modern commercial leadership. As the stage lights turned bright, I stepped up to the podium, taking a quiet breath. 16 years ago, I began my career believing that commercial success was defined purely by market expansion and revenue figures. I addressed the silent auditorium, but experience has taught me a far deeper truth. Real business is built on human trust, personal integrity, and unwavering accountability to the people we serve. We live in an era dominated by rapid automation and electronic data tracking, which offer great operational value. However, when corporate leaders allow metrics to replace human empathy, and when spreadsheets overwrite professional ethics, the enterprise loses its soul. You can automate processes, but you can never automate trust. The auditorium erupted into sustained applause as I concluded my address. Industry delegates stood up across the main floor, honoring the message of ethical leadership and human-centered design. Dozens of industry colleagues approached the stage afterward to offer congratulations and discuss future collaborative ventures. As the crowd began to filter out toward the main exhibition hall, a woman stepped out from behind a display banner. I recognized her instantly, though her appearance had altered significantly. Victoria Sinclair stood before me, wearing a simple dark coat, her posture subdued and her former sharp arrogance entirely gone. "Julian," she said softly, her voice hesitant, "beautiful presentation." "Thank you, Victoria," I replied calmly. "What brings you to the summit?" "I am currently consulting for an early-stage design startup in Oregon," she admitted with a faint, weary smile, "teaching basic operational workflows. It is modest work, but it has forced me to reconsider everything I thought I knew about leadership." I studied her quietly, observing the genuine humility in her eyes. "I am glad you are building a new path, Victoria," I said. "Julian, I came here today to offer a sincere apology," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "When I took over at Cascade, I viewed you as an obstacle to be eliminated. I allowed corporate ambition and numerical targets to blind me to professional ethics. I destroyed my own career because I refused to respect human values. I do not carry bitterness towards you, Victoria, I told her gently. Holding on to anger only binds a person to the past. True professional strength comes from upholding the truth and allowing closure to take place. Her eyes glistened with emotion as she nodded slowly. Thank you for showing me what genuine integrity looks like, she said quietly, before turning to merge into the passing crowd. I watched her depart, feeling a profound sense of resolution. The long, turbulent chapter that began with a cold salary cut in a rain-soaked Portland office had finally reached its natural, honorable end. That evening, I returned to my Seattle residence as gentle autumn rain began to fall over Lake Union. Oliver Grant and our Beacon team hosted a dinner celebration at an iconic harborside restaurant, toasting to our growing studio, our expanding team of 40 talented designers, and the enduring power of human trust. Zachary Cole and Chloe Palmer presented me with a handcrafted wooden desk plaque engraved with a simple motto, "Integrity before metrics." Looking around the table at my dedicated team, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for every challenge we had overcome together. Sitting by the window, in my study late that night, I opened my personal journal. On the final line of the page, I penned a simple concluding thought. True success is not measured by revenge or corporate victory, but by remaining faithful to your principles through every storm. I set the pen down, looked out at the glowing city lights, reflected on the quiet water, and smiled. The road ahead was clear, grounded in human trust, enduring partnerships, and an unshakable commitment to doing what is right.